Hi, my name is Danny Price with Roaming Investors, and these are some things that I consider when deciding where to invest in tax liens and tax deeds across the United States. So let's jump right into it. One of the first things I think about is redemption. So when you have a tax deed or a tax lien state, sometimes they have redemptions. Almost all the time there is some redemption period, even if it's very brief. So the first thing I want to consider is there redemption period and how long it is. They can be as short as 10 days. For example, Arkansas has a 10-day right of redemption. They can be quite long. So my first thing I want to know is there redemption period? How long is the redemption? And what are the rules around that? Next is, does it expire automatically, or do I have to initiate a legal action to cancel the redemption? In some states, the redemption begins and it runs for up to 4 years unless you take legal action to stop the redemption. In some states, if you don't take legal action or do some type of action after 4 years, you lose the property. So it's important to know how it expires, what I have to do to expire it, or if it expires by statute. The next thing is if redemption occurs, what is the rate of return that I will earn and on what amount? What that means is, if there's redemption, is it a percentage or is it a penalty? Is it based off the highest bid? So if the opening bid was $5,000, but the high bid is actually $60,000, do you earn interest on the $60,000? Some states, they have complicated formulas. You earn a certain percent on the entire amount of the back taxes. Then you earn a portion of a percentage on the next, let's say $20,000, and then it's another smaller percentage on the amount after that. Some states you don't earn any interest above the actual back taxes, the opening bid. So you may bid $60,000, but you're only earning interest on the $5,000 that was the back taxes. There's actually a couple of states you don't get your overage back. So you have to be careful about that, knowing what is the redemption rate and on what amount is it based on. Another thing I consider is, if redeemed, how long will it take me to receive my money? So you think it would be pretty quick, right? You go to an auction, you purchase a tax sale property, and let's say the previous owner or the owner redeems in 2 months, right? They go to the court or they go to the tax authority, they pay their money, they get the house back. How long before I get my money back? We have experience in a state that we actually no longer go to. That particular county, it can take 6 to 8 months to get our money. After redemption, after we have signed off all the paperwork and the owner gets their house back, it's another 6 to 8 months before we get our money. It's absolutely ridiculous, and we've actually pulled out of that county that's for one of the main reasons we pulled out. Another thing I consider about the redemption is the redemption process judicial or left to the decisions of municipal employees? What that means is, in some states, if the owner wants to redeem their house, they have to file a motion with the court. Some cases, they have to put up money with the court. They have to pay the expected amount to redeem first. Then a court date is set, and all parties are invited to come to the court on that date and explain their position, or in the case of a tax sale investor, if we have expenses that we want to be redeemed on. Alternatively, sometimes it's literally a matter of walking into the county commissioner or tax assessor's office and saying you want to redeem your property. Now, the reason that is important and can be a source of issues for us as tax sale investors is, the state law may say only certain people are allowed to redeem. In other words, let's say Joe Smith owned the property, it was sold at tax sale, and only Joe Smith or his spouse or heirs are allowed to redeem the property. But a neighbor across the street goes in and wants to redeem the property. If the state law says that only the heirs or the owner can redeem, but the county employee doesn't really care and just lets anyone redeem, that could be a problem, and it also could be against the law. But unless the employees are following the law strictly and know what to do, it hurts the tax sale investors. Another thing I consider about redemption is, when will I have full ownership and how can I clear title? So let's assume that the tax sale in that state has a redemption period. After the redemption period, what happens? How long will it take me after the redemption period has expired, or I have foreclosed on the redemption period? Can I get clean and full title? Is it automatic? Do I have to file a quiet title lawsuit? Can I get title insurance? How is that handled? So all of that is important to know because time is money. If you've got money tied up in these properties and you're ready to sell it, you need to know how long and what the process is going to be able to get clear marketable title on these properties. So another category of things that I consider in deciding which states I go to purchase tax sale properties are possession. And for me, possession is important because when I purchase tax sale properties, the end goal that I have is to end up with the property. There are some investors who only invest in tax liens, where they literally will never touch the property, never maybe even see the property firsthand. They're only going after the 15 or 18% return if the property is redeemed. Other than that, they never have any interest in the property. But me, I want possession of the property. I want to own the property. I want to be able to take the property and do things with it, eventually clean it up, possibly and sell it or rent it. So the first thing I want to know is, do I have legal right to possess the property? For example, the state that I actually live in Georgia, because of a judge's ruling years ago, the common accepted practice is when you purchase a property at the tax sale in Georgia, you're not allowed to trespass on that property. Even though you get a tax deed issued in your name, you cannot trespass on the property until you take action and foreclose on the right of redemption. So it's important to me to know that if I buy a property at a tax sale, that I can go take possession of it immediately and do the things on the property or to the property that I need to do. For example, can I repair it? And this is almost going to be necessary repairs. So in some states, as soon as the auction is concluded and I've purchased a property, I can go take legal possession immediately, especially if it's vacant. That means that I can repair things. If there's a leak in the roof, things that are going to keep deteriorating, I can take care of that. And if the property does get redeemed, I'll get my money back. Another thing to consider is, can I secure the property? And that is to prevent casual trespass. Some states, they have laws written specifically addressing this. And as a tax sale purchaser, you are responsible. You are expected to go secure the property and to prevent just anyone, vagrants or whoever, just going in and out of the house at will. Sometimes the neighbors have already, contacted the police, and it makes it easier. But I need to know that I can do that. Another thing to consider is, if I rent it, am I allowed to keep the rent even if redeemed? Again, you have to read the laws of the state that you're interested in and see how it's been applied in the past. This is very important because if you win a property at a tax sale, if you have legal possession of the property, in most cases, even if the tax sale is voided, if you had rented the property out during that time before it got redeemed, you're allowed to keep the rent. But there have been some states that as a result of lawsuits, they decided that a tax sale was voided, and the tax sale purchaser was renting the property for a few months, and all the money they collected at rent had to go back to the owner. So that can be detrimental as a tax sale investor if something like that happens. So you need to know in that particular state that you're interested in investing how the law applies to something like that. Another thing that I consider is, do I have to take any legal action if it's not vacant to possess it? And I think I misspelled possess, so my bad. But what that means is, if I'm a winning bidder at a tax sale and I win a property and I go to the property and it's not vacant, what do I have to do to have legal possession? Do I have to go post notices on the door to the occupants? Do I have to tell them? Do I have to hire an attorney? In some states, you are given legal possession, but you are not allowed to do what they call do-it-yourself evictions. You have to go back to the courthouse and ask for a legal motion to be applied to that property that will give you the right to have them evicted. So it's important to know that, what your rights are and what your abilities are, because for me, again, when I purchase property, my intention is to own the property and make some money while I'm waiting for a redemption, if there is a redemption period. So now that we've gone over that, and I know that was a lot, but I went fast because this is a video and you can pause and go back. Now I want to go through some general thoughts that I have about tax sale and tax deeds and tax liens in general. One of the things are all previous liens removed when you purchase a property. For example, in most states, but not all, in most states at the tax sale, when a tax investor purchases a property, all prior liens that were like a mortgage or a mechanic's lien are extinguished. However, oftentimes municipal liens, such as weed liens, where the county or the city had to go out and cut the grass, or they had to go out and do some type of other necessary maintenance because the neighbors complained, those liens will probably survive. Also, IRS liens may survive. I've purchased properties before that had Medicaid liens on them, quite large Medicaid liens. It's important to know what the rules are in your state and how to deal with those liens. Those can be removed, usually with no cost, but you have to know what you can and can't do in that particular state. Another one is, has it been condemned? Now, this might seem obvious, but there are times when one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing. And it may be a situation where the city is having a sale, but they don't realize that the county has condemned the property. Or you may purchase a property from over the counter and the county, and from the state, depending on the state you're in, but the county has condemned the property. So you need to know what's been going on and what the time frame is for them to take action on the property. I purchased a property one time that actually had been condemned and was on a list to be bulldozed. I purchased it from the previous tax sale investor who bought the property at the auction, and I went into it knowing that it was on the list to be bulldozed. But I also knew there was a legal process that I could apply pretty quickly to stop the bulldoze and the demolition of the house. So I purchased the property, I hired a lawyer, and we had a stay of execution on the demolition. The county was prepared to do it. They see it all the time. It was no big deal. So I got the demolition stopped, brought it up to code, and honestly, the only reason it was condemned is because the neighbors complained because it was vacant. The only thing wrong with that house, the reason it was condemned, is because it was vacant. The neighbors complained. The county notified the tax sale owner, which was a big company in another state, and they just ignored it. And because they ignored it, eventually the county just said, fine, we're just going to condemn it and bulldoze it because everybody keeps complaining about it being vacant. So you need to know, what the status is and make sure it's not on a list like that, because it is possible that you could buy a property at an auction and it looked fine 3 days ago, but in between they bulldozed it. Could happen. Another general thought about tax sales, don't trust addresses. Tax sales, oftentimes in the list that I see, don't even mention the address, but some do. The only thing you need to go off of is the parcel ID number. The parcel ID, or the legal description, is the holy grail for which property is being auctioned. It is not the address. Think of the address as an alias. So what that means is when I go out and look at properties, I'm going to verify by parcel ID that I'm standing in front of the correct property that has been advertised for sale. Just because it has the same address as what I referenced in the list doesn't mean it's the right property. I have witnessed many times when two parcels, front to back, one behind the other, both had the same referenced address, but again, it meant nothing. The parcel behind the house was the one being auctioned, but when you looked at the address, you're standing in front of a 2-story house. That wasn't being auctioned, it was the empty lot behind it. So it's important not to trust the address, verify the parcel IDs. Another idea I have, or a thought about tax sales, or land. Oftentimes land is overlooked. People don't purchase it as often as they do properties, but land can be a very profitable thing to buy at tax sales. But you have to know what the land is zoned for, what you can do with it, and that you have access to it. Some states allow properties to be landlocked, which means you could buy a parcel of land and not have any legal right to trespass over other property to get to it. Some states don't allow that, and they do not allow land to be landlocked. So if you buy something landlocked, you will have a legal right to create an easement to get to your property. But just make sure that you look at the land just as thoroughly as you look at houses. You don't want to buy a piece of land that, unbeknownst to you, is an EPA superfund. What that means is there's hazardous waste, there's oil, there's gas, and as the new owner, you're going to be required to clean it up. You don't want to buy a do-it-yourself landfill. So land can be a great investment. You can get really good returns on it, but there's not as many things you can do. But you can rent it. You can rent it for hunting. You might even be able to sell the timber on the land and make money while you're waiting for redemption to expire. Just look into your laws, but also consider land. That's it for me right now. That's just some thoughts that I had. I want to put some things out there and create some questions from this. So feel free to drop me a question below in the comments. I love getting those and responding to those. But again, be specific, please, in your questions. As I may have mentioned before, I don't teach and I don't have videos or courses to do this. So a question like, can you tell me how to get started? There's not really a whole lot of time I have to spend on those type of questions. If you have specific questions about tax sale properties, I'm happy to get those and try to answer those for you. The reason I'm too busy is honestly, I'm making my investors a lot of money through roaming investors. And if you're interested, if you have some capital you want to invest and you want to be a passive investor, please contact me and we'll discuss that further. If you have any comments or suggestions for future videos, please put those in the comments below. And if you would take a moment and subscribe. I don't expect that I'm ever going to be large enough on YouTube to actually monetize all these videos, but it would be nice to reach a point where I can customize my channel name in the URL and make it a little bit more readable. But either way, I appreciate you watching. And in the future, I do plan on having some videos where I take you through tax sale properties that I've purchased and walk you through, and I even tell you what I paid for them, kind of what I expect to sell them for. So look for those in the future. Thanks for watching.